decided to do something different.
Thanks for calling, Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
This year, the company Jerry started decided we'd do something different.
Thanks for calling Jerry Kelly Heating, Air, and Electrical.
And electrical.
JerryKelly.com. This is the Gashouse Gang on your home of the St. Louis Cardinals. 1120 AM, 1041 FM, KMOX.
That's a Redbird winner. On the appeal, the third base umpire, Tom Hanahan, rings up Schwarber. Swanson strikes out the side to cap off some comeback by the Cardinals. Down 5-1 after the first inning, and they beat the Phillies tonight 14-7.
Now the Redbirds are 4 games over 500 right now, and they split a doubleheader yesterday against the Phillies. Their 4th doubleheader of the season already, by the way. And they win that series on the road in Philadelphia. It is the Gashouse Gang today until 1 o'clock. Nate Gatter is filling in. He is with me, Chris Ranji, and we're very happy that you're with us for the next hour as we talk some cards, baseball, and some other stuff as well. We are going to be joined today, Nate, by Matt Carpenter. He's going to join the show at 12:30. Carpenter yesterday on a podcast. He was on a show yesterday, and he announced that he is retiring from the game of baseball officially after 14 seasons. So really looking forward to talking to Carpenter. That'll be at 12:30 today. But how about these Birds, man? I mean, we were talking about them at the beginning of the season. They had gotten off to a pretty good offensive start. Not everybody in the lineup. Wilson Contreras struggled a bit. Jordan Walker has been struggling. But they've been scoring a lot of runs anyway. And that was early on. And they have continued to do that really through about a month and a half worth of baseball. I don't know how long this is going to continue, but you have to be encouraged by what you've seen so far. They had 2 games yesterday that were sort of polar opposites, a pitching duel 2-1, and then they score 14 runs in game 2, and they put that one away against the Phillies. But of anything this year, maybe the number one thing you don't really worry about is what they've done offensively. They've been really good.
Yeah, especially since Mason Wynn came back from his injury and they put him in the number 2 spot in the lineup. I mean, he's playing like an all-star on both sides of the ball, and you saw that in the first game of the doubleheader when he saved a run that at the time seemed really consequential with the infield drawn in on a diving play at shortstop, and then you saw it with his 4 hits, including his 5th home run of the season in game 2 of the doubleheader, and he homered, remember, on Monday as well in the series opener. Yeah. He had the game-winning homer in the 3-2 win, and that, I think, was my favorite part of this series. It was great to see them score 14 runs last night. It was maybe even better to see them really competitive and get one win on the road against a really good team in 2 close, low-scoring games, which is on the road close games was where they really struggled.
That's right.
The first month of the season. They started 0-5 in one-run games. They started 1-10, I think it was, away from home overall. They really struggled in those games, in large part because of the bullpen not executing down the stretch. There were also moments where they didn't get the big hit, and we saw that in the 8th inning of the first game of the doubleheader yesterday when they had 2 on with nobody out, 2nd and 3rd with 1 out, and didn't get even the tying run, let alone the go-ahead run in. But still, you take 2 out of 3, and you take them in different ways. You win one game 3-2 on Monday night, a tight game where they needed good pitching from the bullpen. They needed late-game offensive execution, and then you win by piling up 14 runs against, in theory, a good pitcher in Aaron Nola, though a guy who's off to a really, really rough start now, and you can't even just call it a start. We're, close to a third of the way through the season now, and he is still struggling mightily. But the Cardinals get 2 out of 3 on the road against a good ball club in the middle of a road trip, coming off an emotional sweep. They're riding that high. It would have been easy to roll over. It's interesting. You said their 4th doubleheader. That's the first time they've split a doubleheader all year. Mm-hmm. They had swept 2 and been swept once. So they're 5-3 in doubleheader games. But I thought that was a testament as well, the way they bounced back in game 2, because this has been a team that's sort of prone to the emotional highs and lows. Maybe not surprising for a relatively young group, but they looked mature, and and then they went down 5-1. Remember, after an inning in the nightcap last night, it would have been easy for the Cardinals of April 15th to just roll over, but the Cardinals of May 15th or 14th, as it were, responded beautifully.
If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, we are at KMOX Sports on Twitter. If you're listening on the Odyssey app, it is, you just search Gashouse Gang and you'll find us, and you can do the same thing on YouTube. You can comment from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We will see your comments. And if you have questions or whatever it is, you just like to participate in the show, we want to hear from you. Also, 314-436-7900 and leave a message from the Odyssey app. You mentioned the bullpen, Nate. Do you know how many bullpens statistically, and I'm just looking at a couple of metrics here, which I think are important metrics, one of them being the fielding independent numbers. There has been, well, I'll ask it this way. How many teams in May have pitched better out of the bullpen than the Cardinals?
In May, probably not many. Maybe 2? 3?
Right now, I'll give you ERA. There's only one team that has a better ERA in May, and that's the Minnesota Twins. So they have done really, really well.
And that's after in April, I imagine that bullpen ERA was in the bottom 5, certainly.
Easily. And I think a huge reason for it, I know that a big reason for this is starting pitching when early in the year was not going deep enough into games. They have been going plenty deep in the last several weeks. That takes a ton of pressure off a bullpen.
Sort of the same story from last season.
Yeah, exactly. You give guys reason to relax. You give them an opportunity to relax. They don't have to pitch 2-3 innings. You don't have to overwork and go to the same guys all the time because your starters aren't lasting long enough in games. That makes a huge difference that you're getting the starting pitching they have gotten, that guys are pitching deeper into games. It makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, no, I think that's been a tremendous difference. I think specifically Steven Matz being in the bullpen and being able to give them all the different things that he does. I think he's probably a somewhat underappreciated part of the story of this season so far. No question. Yeah. He had some success pitching in the rotation, but it's been remarkable how flexible he is in the bullpen. I don't think people have a good grasp of how physically and mentally demanding that is to sometimes be a guy who's going to come in and just face 3 or 4 batters, lefty in high leverage situations, and other times pitch 2 or 3 innings, sometimes both. I mean, that's essentially what he was doing in game 1 of the doubleheader yesterday, was both the high leverage late innings and eating multiple innings for them. He has been invaluable. It's taken a lot of pressure off that pen. Also, the appearances that they got during the course of the winning streak from both Gordon Graceffo and Michael McGreevy were huge as well. The McGreevy appearance, what was that, couple of Sundays ago now in the doubleheader against the Mets, when he consumed 5 2/3 bullpen innings on his own, didn't give up a single run. I think that was huge in terms of just alleviating the stress of that doubleheader going into a long road trip for the Cardinals that they've now been on. I mean, they had the Pirates series at home afterward, but then into the road trip. In general, just different guys who have stepped up to help spread out the stress of the bullpen a little bit and not concentrate all of it on poor Kyle Leahy, whose right arm must be hanging. Oh, man. Ryan Helsley, Jojo Romero, and Phil Maton.
Yeah, you can't keep going to the same well all the time. And this is where the manager gets criticized. And I think it is mostly unfair to criticize managers in this way. And I fully recognize that that's sort of how you make a name for yourself as a manager, is the way you handle a bullpen, who you decide to go to, if it works or not. But the reality is, if you don't have enough good relievers and you only have a closer that you know is good and maybe a late inning guy that you feel pretty comfortable with, and you used to have one who was good but no longer is, and Ryan Fernandez, or at least he hasn't been effective lately. If you only have 2 guys you really trust at any given time, well, it doesn't matter who you go to. It doesn't matter who you go to in the bullpen, because they could give it up. And then you look like you don't know what you're doing. Then you look like you don't know the right reliever to go to. Well, sometimes it takes a while for that to settle, for you to realize what roles belong to what guys and who's doing the best in those roles. And I think for this team, it did take, probably 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get to that point. They've done that now, and the starters have gone deep to allow them the luxury of doing that. So I do think that managers, and Ollie Marmol in this case, probably got unfairly criticized for bullpen usage. Not that he uses not that he's always perfect. Of course he's not. No manager ever is. But I think he was taking the brunt of the criticism he probably didn't deserve when guys just weren't pitching well enough, and he only had a couple he could count on.
Yeah, he's decorating the house, but he didn't get to buy the furniture. He can only work with what he's got. Yeah. I will say this, too. one of the things that really concerned me early on in the season when they were scuffling and they were losing a lot of close games and the record was starting to get away from them and they were falling off the pace in the division, and now excites me as they've gone on this run to really at least overcome the deficit that they created for themselves and put themselves in a good position going into the summer, is that the bullpen, more so than the starting rotation, more so than the lineup, by far the easiest portion of the roster to overhaul midseason. Or maybe overhaul is too strong a word,
address,
but to bolster at the very least midseason, because those guys tend to be available, because that's the first reliever pitchers are the first guys that non-contending teams are moving in July. They're relatively inexpensive, and they tend to be on short-term contracts. So they're just quite transient.
Nate, everybody's looking for it at the deadline. Almost every team is looking for relief pitching at the deadline. But there's always a good amount of it available too.
And especially because the Cardinals won't necessarily need the A-list guy. They have an A-list guy, and they have a couple of B-list guys. What they'll be looking for is give me one or two more reliable B-list guys who maybe I'm not going to put in there in the 8th or 9th inning with a 1-run lead, but who I can trust in the 6th or 7th inning with a 3-run lead. That's what they're looking for, is just a little bit more solid quality depth, and those guys can usually be had. And I think for a variety of reasons, in part because the division is not overwhelmingly strong, especially now that the Cubs are starting to come back to earth a little bit. And because I think that ownership probably wants to change a little bit of the narrative that's developed around this team the last couple of years, and is now evident. The way that's taken hold is evident in the attendance numbers and the empty seats so far this season, which I think might change the way that they're playing. There's going to be a lot of excitement around the team
if they keep playing like this.
I think they would be looking for a reason to make, as long as they're relatively inexpensive acquisitions like the bullpen would be, both in terms of dollars and more importantly prospect capital. I think they'd be looking for a reason to be buyers at the deadline rather than sellers. And if the Cardinals can put themselves in first place or within a game or two of first place in July, I think they will buy.
But also that needs to be stated, or it needs to be stated that yes, they will buy, but it is very unlikely it is a major acquisition. We should reiterate that this is a team that going into the year was very clear about shedding payroll. They tried to move Arenado's contract. They already moved a couple of others. They let Paul Goldschmidt go in free agency. So their attempt was to lessen payroll. They said they were going to do it, and they did it. I don't know that changes in 3 months of the following season.
And it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
I agree.
3 hot months should not cause you to throw your plan out the window. But that's the beauty of it, is that this is a winnable division with the roster they have. Certainly, if they're in position to win it, they can become a very winnable division with relatively inexpensive acquisitions that don't do anything financially or from a prospect development standpoint to change the plan. They don't alter the course. And what would be better for I don't want to say rebuilding year, but a retooling developmental year than to get these young players, not just a lot of experience, but a chance to play in September in a division race, a chance to play some playoff games. What would that do for development? Even if you're not turning them into World Series contenders, how about some really consequential September and even October at bats for Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, Mason Wynn, Victor Scott? That's only going to help.
It's such a cliche, and fans of teams that don't really go deep in playoffs get tired of hearing meaningful baseball in September. But in this particular case, for this particular team, it would be a good thing for them to be playing games that matter in the 3rd and 4th week of September. It would matter a lot, and I think it could go a long way for them. Let us know what you think. 314-436-7900 for the Gashouse Gang. Nate and Chris on the show today. Nate is in for Bernie Miklas. Also, what has been the biggest surprise for you in the beginning parts of this Cardinal season? Let us know who and why. Gashouse Gang brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
We started Neovitin because we wanted to create a multivitamin for ourselves. That's why we focus on quality ingredients and formulas with our multivitamins. Neovitin 50-plus multivitamins are formulated with over 20 vitamins and minerals, along with our 4-ingredient, physician-formulated proprietary blend for the highest quality daily nutritional support. Give Neovitin 50-plus multivitamins a try for yourself. Find them at your local Schnucks, Dierbergs, and online at neovitin.com.
Join us for the next Business of Family Business on KMOX. I'm Debbie Monterey, along with my co-host Kevin Short of Clayton Capital Partners, and we're going to be talking about plumbing.
We are, but the really interesting, fun part of plumbing, not the nasty side of plumbing. So you will learn a lot about the business.
It is Matt LaMartina of Tony LaMartina Plumbing. It is going to be a fascinating conversation, so we hope you will join us Saturday at 5 here on KMOX for the Business of Family Business.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6481. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6481. That's 800-575-6481. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Hey, this is Charlie Brennan. Have you noticed loose bricks or missing mortar around your house, on the walls, the patios, the walkways, the porch, or the chimneys? If so, you need to call Morelli Tuck Pointing. 314-645-1387. You might need one of two things: solid tuck pointing, the removal of old mortar with the replacement of new mortar throughout an entire wall or chimney, or maybe just spot tuck pointing. Spot tuck pointing involves the tuck pointing of a particular wall, a chimney, or other masonry surface in an area where it's needed the most. One example might be settlement cracks, usually found above or below windows or doorways. 314-645-1387. Call the company that the Brennans have called when we've needed tuck pointing. Morelli Tuck Pointing, the masonry specialists. Winner of the Angie's List Super Service Award every year since 2005. 314-645-1387, MorelliTuckPointing.com.
It's not too late for a deep spring cleaning on your home. Give my friends at Zero Res a call today. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $129. Take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Visit ZeroResSTL.com and tell them that Dave Glover sent you.
Don't miss Mosby Building Arts Home Improvement Shows Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KMOX. One of the last call-in shows where you can get live answers to your remodeling, design, and construction questions. Tune in Saturdays at 11 a.m.
For 57 years, Chesterfield Fence and Deck has been one of St. Louis's top names in home improvement because of their commitment to put quality and professionalism first in everything they do. This is Debbie Monterey, and I can tell you from personal experience that they will give you the best and longest lasting outdoor products available with skilled installation teams who carry out their mission to be the very best in customer service and quality craftsmanship. Whether you're looking for fences, decks, sunrooms, screen room, patio, retaining wall, or more, Chesterfield Fence and Deck is a company that you can trust with your home. If you mention me, Debbie Monterey, they'll also offer you 48 months interest-free financing, which should go a long way. Go ahead and do your homework and call around and get bids, but you will find that you get the best value with Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best. Visit them in the Chesterfield Valley or online now at chesterfieldfence.com. It's Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best.
KMOX is everywhere. 11:20 a.m. Streaming live on the Odyssey app and now at 104.1 FM.
Matt Carpenter, who announced his retirement, is going to join the show at 12:30. And we've already had a texter here from Mary Lynn who wants to know if Carp is retiring as a Cardinal. I would think so. We'll ask him about it. We got plenty to talk about with Matt Carpenter. He will join us in about 7 or 8 minutes. So you'll want to stick around for that. Nate Gatter is in for Bernie Miklasz today. I'm Chris Ranji, and we're very happy you are with us. We asked you who your biggest surprise was, or I guess it could be a pleasant surprise or not, with the Cardinals so far in 2025. I've said this before. I want to reiterate it because I think he deserves the due, and that's Matthew Liberatore. And it's not that he's pitching well. I'm not surprised. that he has been good. I'm surprised he's been as good as he has been, because he's been good comparatively in the National League going up against some of the other better starters around the league. I didn't think he was going to do that. To me, I thought there was a pretty good likelihood. While I thought he was going to be decent, I would not have also been surprised if we got to this point of the year, like 6 weeks in, and we're having the conversation of, what do we do about this guy? Do we just keep letting him go out there or what? I would not have been stunned if we were talking like that now. But the fact we're not doing that, and we are going beyond that, talking about him being one of the better starters in the league, that's really impressive to me. And I did not think that was going to happen.
Mike Matley on our Facebook, on KMOX Facebook, commented, biggest surprise has to be Victor Scott. And I have a tough time disputing that. I think at least among the position players, I think you're right. Liberatore has taken a really good step. But I think Victor Scott's all-around ability and the impact that he has had on this team has been fantastic. Because, Mason Wynn has taken a big step forward, but I don't think anybody's shocked. Maybe a little more power. Maybe that's been a bit surprising, his power surge of late. But everybody expected that he would take a step forward. Negative surprises, maybe a little surprising, especially with Jordan Walker, that offensively he hasn't been able to take a positive step. But his defense has been vastly improved, and the offense is still the kind of thing. It's still early enough in the season. I think you see how it goes, because he's still grinding, he's still making his adjustments. He had a big hit the other night in Philadelphia, so I don't think you're throwing in the towel on that by any stretch. But to your point about the starting pitching and Liberatore in particular, I am so excited about the future of the Cardinals starting rotation now, with what we've seen from Liberatore, with the glimpses that we've gotten of Graceffo and in particular McGreevy. I am thrilled at the possibility of three of those guys being in the Cardinals rotation for a long time. And if anything, they're creating a logjam, because I don't see a scenario right now, barring something unforeseen or, hopefully not injuries or something like that. I don't see how you're okay going into next year not having all three of those guys in the starting rotation on opening day.
It's probably the most likely thing to have happen.
And it feels almost like being back in the situation the Cardinals were for a long time, with having like 7 major league quality outfielders on the 40-man roster. Too many. Where, now it's okay. Sonny Gray, obviously not going anywhere in the short term. Miles Michaelis has been outside of that start against Boston. For all the derision he takes, a significantly above average major league starting pitcher. Eric Fetty has pitched great his last few outings, including 5 2/3 scoreless yesterday. Then you go through those 3 young guys, you're already at 6, right? And we haven't even talked about Andre Palante, who I think still has something to offer at the back end of rotation. And that doesn't even get to Steven Matz, who I'm effectively counting as a reliever at this point. But that's 8 guys now who I think you could feel could all say, I am a major league starting pitcher. I deserve a spot in the rotation. And we'd all say, yeah, you've got your fair points. I can't, you might nitpick, and you might be able to rank 5 above the other 3 or something like that. You got to come up with your 5, but all 8 of them could make a claim, I should be in the rotation.
This is supposed to be a transitional year for the Cardinals. That's what we all talked about. That's basically what they said was going to happen. The team said was going to happen this year. But as I have said a number of times in the last few weeks, as long as they are in contention, I refuse to give up on that idea. I know this is about the young guys playing, but right now I just can't give up on the idea of trying to win ball games for the sake of being in transition, if that makes sense. So I hope it continues. And right now they're just a game back. If you like to look at the standings this early part of the season, the Cubs are in front by just a game in the National League Central. So this is competitive right now, which is good news. Nate Gatter is in for Bernie. Almost said Amy Marks, of course. Bernie Miklasz supposed to be here on Thursday, had the day off today. So we will keep it going. When we come back, Matt Carpenter, who announced his retirement, joins the show coming up.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10, $20, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-207-4545. That's 800-207-4545. Once again, that's 800-207-4545.
Why do the national tax resolution firms need the tiny fine print at the bottom of all their TV ads? Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. You don't hear fast-talking disclaimers in our ads because the claims we make are 100% transparent. The Lance Story Law Firm primarily focuses on one thing, IRS problems, and we're regulated by the Bar Association, and we have a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. IRS issues are serious legal issues. The Lance Story Law Firm has helped thousands of clients navigate the best resolution plans, and we tell you up front exactly how much it'll cost. Tax resolution law is all we do. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Lance Story Law Firm, located right here in St. Louis. Call today to schedule your free consultation with me, 314-260-6120, or visit LanceDruryLaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Oh, baby, it is warm out. It is 86 degrees and partly cloudy in St. Louis. The high will be 88. At least that's what it looks like right now. The weather is sponsored by the Penn Mutual Life Insurance Company, PennMutual.com/STL. Chances are you have a lot of people who depend on you, your family, maybe even employees. Life insurance from Penn Mutual can provide you peace of mind and protect the most important people in your life. Ask your independent advisor or go to PennMutual.com/STL.
This is Tom Ackerman. McKelvey Homes, founded in 1898, gives $1,898 back to nonprofits for every home that they sell. 1898. And this time around, it's to Circle of Concern, a food pantry in Valley Park. Most recently, McKelvey Homes gave back to the Foster and Adoptive Care Coalition for the 28 homes that they sold in the first quarter of the year. McKelvey Homes, McKelveyHomes.com.
Straight Realty has always been an industry leader when it comes to commissions, so it should come as no surprise that the recent Realtor settlement has only empowered us to continue offering our sellers even better rates. We now list homes for only 2%. Hi, I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty. Call me, 314-441-4444. Why pay more than 2? You can also listen to my podcast on my website, straightrealty.com.
Commissions are not regulated and are negotiable. Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
It's Tom Ackerman for Ophthalmology Associates, the doctor's doctors, 314-966-5000 or online at youridoc.com.
Cards manager Ollie Marble joins the Gashouse Gang every Tuesday at noon. Sponsored by Siteman Cancer Center on the voice of the Cardinals, 104.1 FM, KMOX.
He delivers to Carpenter. Hard hit, center field. It's deep. Back goes the center fielder to the track, to the wall, and it's gone. Matt Carpenter has homered again. 6 straight games for the Cardinal first baseman. He is on a roll.
Matt Carpenter played 14 seasons in Major League Baseball, a huge part of Cardinals lore. Fan favorite here, and we miss him in St. Louis. And now he joins the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Matt Carpenter announcing his retirement yesterday. Nate Gatter, Chris Ranji today. Matt, how you doing, man? It's a huge decision to have to come to.
Hey guys, man, I appreciate you having me on the show. Yeah, you know, it was. You know, when you are fortunate enough to play the game of baseball for as long that I was able to do, and you know, it's such a big part of your life. Whenever you make a decision like this, that it definitely weighs on you. But it certainly was the right decision and the right time, and I couldn't be more happy with the way it's all played out. Especially getting to, you know, put on the Cardinal uniform one last time last year and finish where it all started was quite a thrill.
So when did you know? Was there a moment where it just clicked for you, where you just thought, okay, this is it. I have to say goodbye?
Honestly, I kind of felt it throughout most of the season last year, but just didn't really want to go and formally announce it. Mainly because you just never know how an off season will play out. I mean, obviously, I would have welcomed another opportunity to come back in St. Louis. But, with where the organization was headed and the direction that they wanted to move, they've got a lot of young, great players that they wanted to, give some runway. And it's been a great thing for them, and completely support that move. And then also, just seeing what if I were to go play somewhere else, if it would be a good fit from a family standpoint. And, when you weigh all those options, this decision ended up being a pretty easy one.
Did you have any talks with anybody about it? Did any teams at all, even if it was just a, hey, what do you think? Or, what is there? Or anybody reaching out to you?
There were some conversations for sure. And especially early on. And as the off season progressed, it just became more and more clear that, this was probably going to be the end. And, especially, I've got two little ones at home that I really want to spend a lot more time with. And, my wife has obviously been through a lot. Anybody who's done this for as long as I have knows the toll it takes on the family. And, I just felt like the timing was perfect. And, I just couldn't be more fortunate and blessed to be able to have had the career that I have, and I have no regrets whatsoever. And just really looking forward to what's next.
Matt, when you were talking about the Cardinals this year and the makeup of the roster, you mentioned the young players they want to give some runway to. And that's one of the things that I think has always stood out to me about your career, and maybe is underappreciated, is that you were almost 24 years old when you were drafted out of TCU. You were in the 13th round. So not to take anything away from you, but 23 going on 24-year-olds who are drafted in the 13th round are normally not the guys coming in, with the big bonuses and getting all the runway in front of them, and the teams are doing absolutely everything they can to help them succeed. At the same time, you sped through the minor leagues, and you were in St. Louis just a couple of years after you got drafted in 2011. What was your mentality as one of those guys who, not a late pick, but, not one of those top guys with the huge bonuses, not one of the 18, 19-year-olds who's on all the must-draft lists, coming into a system that had the reputation for being more developmental and being able to get through it in just a couple of years?
Well, I mean, I give all the credit to, the staff members in that organization. We, for many years, and still to this day, I mean, St. Louis does such a great job with having great, coaches all the way up through the system. And, giving a guy like me the opportunity to go out and, like you mentioned, a fifth-year senior and an older guy, just the opportunity to go out and play and develop and do it, with pretty good pace. You look at where I was. I mean, if it didn't go as quickly as it would have, it probably wouldn't never happen. I mean, if you get to be in the late 20s and you're still in the minor leagues, it's probably not going to work out for you. So, I just give a lot of credit to the great coaches that I had throughout that system, and really the organization as a whole. I don't think that my career would have played out the same if it wasn't in St. Louis, and for many reasons. But one, the opportunities that were given to me, and the great developmental ability from all the coaches down there.
Talking with Matt Carpenter on the Gashouse Gang on KMOX, and you've had a lot of pretty great Cardinals moments. You had that 5-for-5 game against the Cubs with the 3 home runs and the 2 doubles, and you had a lot of postseason home runs as well. Is there something that you look back on as a Cardinal and think that was the best? Either that game was the best or that moment was the best.
It's tough to put it. It's tough to come up with just one. There were so many moments that were just so much fun. I mean, obviously, like you had mentioned, during that run in 2018 was a blast, and debuting in 2011 on a team that eventually goes on to win a World Series was pretty special. I mean, I wasn't a part of that postseason roster, but just being in the locker room your first year in the big leagues with a team that, is eventually going to lift that trophy at the end of that season was pretty special. And one that I, obviously hold close to my heart. But I think, for me, it's such a team sport, and it's such a grind, as we know, that season. So anytime that, you have that team success, those are the ones that I really hold the closest to my heart. And so for, the best team that I personally had the opportunity to play for throughout a full season was that 2013 team. And, winning the National League Championship and getting to go to the World Series, which, unfortunately we weren't able to pull off. But I think clinching that opportunity against the Dodgers at home at Busch Stadium, a chance to go to the World Series, just being on that field with the fans and our families and celebrating with the guys that you just grinded a whole, 162 schedule with. I think that's probably the highlight for me.
I know what it was like to be a fan and to watch Game 6 and Game 7 of 2011. What's it like to have been on the team that year and also be watching all of that unfold?
That was truly the most, I don't think I've ever reacted that way towards a television set in my entire, I know I haven't. I know that. What'd
you do?
I know that I have. I screamed like a little kid and jumped up and down. We've all seen those videos of the fan reactions during those moments. I was right there with them.
That's so special.
Yeah, it's so good, man.
One other thing I want to mention and give you a chance to take a victory lap on, Matt, that you are retiring with an ERA of 0.00 off your scoreless inning and a third from May 2021. So I don't know, you planning to call Waino or anybody and just emphasize that you're retiring with a lower ERA than them?
Hey, I'm telling you right now, that's one of my highlights for sure. And that ball is proudly displayed in my office. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that.
As you should be. Not a lot of guys throw a scoreless inning in the major leagues, let alone never give up a run.
Yeah, it was tons of fun. And actually, it was backing up Waino's game, too. So it gives me a little extra firepower against them there.
What did you get the win for that one?
No, I don't think it was. Obviously, anytime I'm on the mound, things aren't looking good.
Yeah, I was like, Chris, I don't think they're putting him in the game.
But come on, man, why not?
Yeah,
get the win in relief.
Yeah, I guess that you could have been up like
else.
12-2 and just throw him out there. But yeah, normally I don't think that's how it goes.
Because you mentioned that you have that ball. Is there something that you acquired during your playing career? And it doesn't even have to be a baseball thing, but something you maybe got at the ballpark. Celebrities come through all the time. So is there something that you have specifically that you got from being a player that's your most prized possession?
Man, there's a couple, and they're all pretty similar. They're photographs. I have kind of a man cave of some of the cooler things that I've been a part of throughout my career, and definitely in the top 3 are some photos that I have, and I have a photo shaking the hand and standing side by side with Lou Brock. I've got a photo with Bob Gibson, a photo with Red Shandies, and I have a picture from spring training where I'm sitting on the ground with my son, who at the time was like, I don't know, 16 months old, and I'm holding him, and Ozzy is sitting there right next to us, and we're just having kind of a casual conversation. And it was a photo that wasn't really, staged. It was just kind of by, accident. And man, that is some of the coolest stuff. And, obviously I appreciate it to no end, but that's one of those things that one day my son will look at and think, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you earned your place there. It's not like you were a fan who just happened to be on the field, but did you how often were you taking moments to think to yourself, man, this is awesome. This is awesome. I get to do this.
Well, that's one of the best things about the Cardinals and their organization is just the amazing Hall of Fame, great players that have donned that uniform and being around them, spending time in spring training. It was something I never took for granted and really looked at those guys as the heroes that they were. And anytime that I had any moment to spend with them, I was very grateful for it. So, to be able to call them friends and spend the quality time that we did together, and now have those photos to last forever. I mean, it's pretty special.
Matt, speaking of being around great players, you alluded to it earlier when you got called up to spend some time with that 2011 team, kind of the year before you became a full-time big leaguer. And not only did you get to be around some great players on an eventual World Series championship team, you got kind of the dream introduction in having those 2 games against the Cubs in June, when not only did you get your first major league hit playing against and it was a double, by the way, which I love, playing against the Cubs at Busch Stadium, but also, if I remember right, Albert Pujols hit walk-off home runs in extra innings in both of your first 2 games. Is that right?
You're exactly right. And it's one of my favorite stories to tell. You know, you get to the big leagues and you follow guys like Albert your whole career. And as a kid, I mean, even watching him just, you know, I grew up in Houston and he just absolutely destroyed the Astros on a daily basis. Everyone remembers the big home run he hit off Brad Lidge. And, you know, finally I'm getting an opportunity to be in the same dugout with this guy and watching him do what he does. And on your major league debut, he comes up in the bottom of the 9th and hits a walk-off home run, and just that excitement and the way you feel. And being at home plate, I have a great photo standing there around the home plate, and we're all waiting for him to come. And then the very next night, he does it again, and then you're just like, I mean, is this what he does every night? Is this what's going to happen every time Albert gets up the plate? He's going to hit a game-winning home run. It felt like he did most of the time. Yeah. So it was a pretty special first couple of days for sure.
That's so fun, man. I mean, just to be able to see all that and then be a part of it had to have really been something. And then at one point of your career, not that long ago, just a couple of years ago, you end up playing for another one of the most storied franchises in baseball in the Yankees, and you had to shave it. So you've got a really nice, enviable salt and pepper beard. Having to shave that beard for the Yankees, how difficult was that?
It was definitely difficult. You know, at the time, you know, I had a 6-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son who had never seen me without facial hair. And so that was a bit of an adjustment for them.
Did they cry?
And they were just like, it's almost like I was a different person. They didn't even know who I was for the first few hours. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a change of pace, but you know, it was fun. And really getting to the opportunity to put on that uniform was a pretty special thing. You're talking about 2 of the best franchises, not just in Major League Baseball, but professional sports. I mean, the Yankees and the Cardinals. I mean, I think any baseball fan who follows the game has a great appreciation for both of those teams. So it was quite a thrill to get that opportunity, even though it was a brief stint. Sure was a lot of fun.
Matt, any plans as of now, or even just loose ones for some point in the near future to be back in St. Louis and allow the fans to kind of give you that one more send off?
I'm sure at some point, you know, that'll happen. You know, there's nothing on the schedule right this second, but you know, St. Louis will always be home for me. You know, we raised our family there. Our kids were born there. I mean, it's more than just a place that I played. It's like a home, and we still have tons of friends that we want to visit, and so we'll definitely be back.
Well, I know everybody's looking forward to having you back here in St. Louis. Matt Carpenter, really cool to talk to you. We congratulations on a really great Cardinals career. Really, you'll end up with the red jacket someday. I think we all kind of agree on that, and so we're looking forward to that day. And also, don't let Charles Barkley talk bad about your hometown of Galveston anymore. If you ever see him, tell him he can't say bad things about Galveston.
I will. Well, guys, hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and go Cardinals.
That is Matt Carpenter, who announced his retirement yesterday. Really awesome career, man. Awesome guy, too, and it's awesome to talk to him. Man, so happy for him. I wish we could have a little bit more time with him. And more time with him here in St. Louis, too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he had, 10, 11 years here in St. Louis. But
that's a long time.
Yeah, it's one of those guys that you wish, knowing everything, and you never know how things would have gone differently. But like I said, when we were talking to him, he came into professional baseball really late compared to what is typical for guys who go on to the careers and the success that he had. There are relatively few guys who don't start playing pro ball until they're 23 and a half, almost 24 years old, and go on to that kind of career. So if he had come in on the more typical timeline, you could have had 2, 3, 4 more years, but I mean, he had a really, really fantastic
really
career,
nice career,
and I think way more consistent for way longer here in St. Louis than people realize.
I also forgot to ask him about the batting gloves, and if he made his hands calloused the Moises Alou way. You know what that is, Nate?
I'm not going to talk about it with you on the radio.
Yeah, you got. Well, we already talked about it yesterday.
Good.
You got. If you don't know what Moises Alou used to do with his hands because he didn't wear batting gloves, look it up. Nate Gatter and Chris Ranji on the Gashouse Gang. Hey, what's going on with City SC? I got some questions for you, pal. We'll get those when we come back on KMOX.
Now, 90 and 60. A look back at the latest St. Louis City SC match. Presented by Woods Basement Systems, Inc.
Out of the middle of the field. Moves it wide. Horn crosses it. Header! Kangaroos it up over the bar. San Diego orchestrating up the right side. Left footed shot. Back post! Rings off the back post. Anders Dreyer slams a line drive. City happy to escape. Still tied 0-0. Cello. Laser off flick. Header now. Ball. A base header off the post, but it's flushed on home. Final score is San Diego 2, St. Louis 1.
Up next, City SC faces Sporting KC Wednesday night. Kick at 7:45.
Hey guys, Glover here with my friend Mark Cantor at Cantor Injury Law. So as you know, I'm a lawyer, so I take this very seriously. Mark is a great attorney. He has a great team. He is from St. Louis. He is local. Call 314-628-9999 or visit cantorinjurylaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be solely based on advertisements.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-207-4545. That's 800-207-4545. Once again, that's 800-207-4545.
Hey, St. Louis homeowners, are you thinking about upsizing, downsizing, or relocating this year? This is Debbie Monterey, and when life happens and you need to sell your home, I recommend you speak with trusted realtor Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria understands every seller situation is unique, which is why she's created custom programs to fit every home seller's needs. Many people move out of necessity, like for a new job or financial challenges. And that's why Gloria's created her guaranteed multiple cash offer program, giving you up to 6 of the best offers with at least 1 at 100% of market value, or Gloria will pay you the difference. Plus, you sell faster. Gloria did this for the Miller family in Clayton and got them more money than they were expecting and within their time frame. Gloria did it for them. She can do it for you. Get your offers today by calling Gloria Liu at 314-325-6888 or online at gloriahasthebuyers.com. Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date. gloriahasthebuyers.com.
Now, back to the Gashouse Gang on your home of the St. Louis Cardinals. 1120 AM, 104.1 FM, KMOX.
Pushes infield for the left side. Ostrak thinks about it, takes a shot, gets blocked by Christian. Oh! And it kangaroos wildly into the back of the net.
Well, I mean, that was great, that moment. But City SC let it go late yesterday. It is the Gashouse Gang, and it is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. A few more minutes to go here. We speak with Nate Gatter in for Bernie Miklas. I'm Chris Ranji. We just talked to Matt Carpenter. If you missed the interview, it will be on YouTube and Facebook, and you can find it on the Odyssey app as well. So, Nate, what's going on with this team, and why do they keep giving up goals in the last 20 minutes and sometimes when they're up?
Well, the performance in the second half, especially from like minute 60, minute 65 on last night, was really poor. They were able to have some possession at times in last night's game that I thought was productive and was they were doing some good things in midfield and connecting passes, and then they just decided to concede possession for a lot of the latter part, the fourth quarter of the game, if you will, the latter part of the second half, and it felt like it was coming at some point that Kansas City would score. And the other what's interesting is if you go back and look like at the first goal for Kansas City, and I think this is emblematic of kind of the way that City were playing from minute 60-ish or 65, certainly until the first goal went in, which wasn't long. That was in the late 60s. And then maybe into a little bit past it, they were still sort of set up like they were going to press. They weren't playing in a low block the way you would to close out the last 10 minutes of a game with a 2-0 lead and just sitting deep. They still kind of had their shape, but they weren't actually pressing with any kind of ferocity that was going to disrupt Kansas City's buildup. And so, in effect, all they were doing was creating space for Kansas City to play into and to break the lines. It was not a good effort. It's not a very good team. Part of that is because they have injuries. A bigger part is that their roster is just not as good as it needs to be if they're going to, in theory, accomplish the ambitions that they have. And then on top of that, they hired a manager who hasn't won more than 30% of his games anywhere that he's been over longer than a 2-month stretch since his first tenure managing in Sweden back for 2 years in 2015 to 2017. He hasn't been a successful manager anywhere that he's gone. This is the biggest league that he's been in, and now he's managing to winning roughly 20 to 25% of his games, which is the same kind of lousy output that he's had at the last couple of places that he's been. And City took him over a guy in John Hackworth who filled in admirably last year and immediately started getting better results than Bradley Carnell was getting, in part because of an infusion of talent in the summer and some guys returning from injury. Certainly, it's not to say that Carnell couldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But this team has gotten worse this year. They are less compelling to watch than they were even under Carnell, certainly than they were under Hackworth, and they've been objectively less successful. At some point, it becomes on everybody, right? I mean, yes, it's on Olaf Melberg. It's also on Lutz Pfannenstiel, who's been allowed essentially carte blanche to build this team however he wants. And it's also on Carolyn Kindle, who has...
She said before the season they have to make the playoffs this year.
And has locked fans into ultra-expensive 3-year season ticket plans that some of which are going to be coming up at the end of this year. We'll see. I assume those renewals will still be good because people are still dedicated and showing up. But they continue to have one of the lowest payrolls in the entire league, probably in the bottom 2 or 3. This is an untenable set of circumstances to be this lousy while also sticking with the same people or bringing in people like Olaf Melberg who haven't had success elsewhere and not spending money to have more talent.
Are they going to mid-season fire a coach again?
I hope so.
Whoa, okay. Well, something has to be different.
How about John Hackworth be the head coach again? Maybe if he turns them around a second time, they'll hire him to be the real coach.
All right. Anything you missed from the Gashouse Gang, if you missed the whole show, or the interview with Matt Carpenter, who retired yesterday, go back and listen to it. You can get it on the Odyssey app. Just search out Gashouse Gang, or you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at KMOX Sports. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Gashouse Gang at 12 on 104.1 FM KMOX.
Tomorrow, some of us will wake up and it will be our last day on this earth. It will be unexpected and without warning.